My name is Marshall Archer. I represent District 129, which is part of Saco. Thank you.
Good morning, Dick Bradstreet, Senate District 15.
Representative Amy Rader, District 23 in the House, part of Bangor.
Gary Drinkwater, District 27.
Rafael Macias, House District 51, part of Thompson.
Good morning, Alicia Collins. I represent the towns of Sydney and Vassalboro. Thanks for being here.
I'm Mike Soboleski. I represent the 73rd District in the Western Mountains, parts of Franklin, Oxford, and Somerset counties.
And Senator Tipping, you can introduce yourself. Take it from here.
Mike Tipping, Senate District 8 in Penobscot County. And I think you're doing great. You go right ahead.
No. I'll turn it over to Mr. Langland for looking at the budget. Thank you.
Sure. So, as you know, the governor put forth the supplemental budget proposal. And we had our public hearing, I think it was last week. And so a report back on those initiatives that pertain to this committee were actually due last night. You should have in front of you a packet that looks sort of like this. It's white, has a whole bunch of blank lines. And that's sort of the document that I think we'll be working off of, because that is sort of what AFA is expecting you to opine on. So just a little bit of an overview of sort of the process is that we will go through the initiatives, and you can certainly ask questions. And I know the department is here. We will take votes. And then and there are a couple language pieces which also require votes. And then if there's anything else that you wish to add in the budget, that's also your purview. So just a reminder that this is advisory in nature to the AFA committee. And that it's the LD 2212 is actually their bill. So they can sort of do whatever they wish with your recommendations. But I also want to stress that nothing prevents you from talking with them about individual bills that are important to you or other initiatives that are important to you outside of this memo. There's no sort of prohibition on talking to them outside of a report back. So just wanted to also flag that for you. If the chairs would like, we can jump in, and sort of my role here is more of a facilitator, given that I'm not the budget expert and I'm not the person proposing the budget. So what I can do is I can read the initiatives and the justifications. And if you have specific questions, I think those would be best directed toward the entity in which these would affect.
Great. Well, we would certainly welcome the commissioner or whoever would like to present on this.
So the first initiative is on page 1 of 7. It's in the Department of Labor. It's the top of the page says section A21. It's in administration. That initiative provides one-time funding for competitive grants to workforce training organizations to develop training courses and new career exploration or apprenticeship programs with credentialing standards related to artificial intelligence, to integrate AI into existing training programs, or to encourage employers to invest in related skills to keep their workforces competitive, innovative, and productive. The justification provided by the department is that this initiative provides a one-time general fund appropriation for the department to issue those grants to workforce training organizations with an emphasis on AI. It's my understanding that this recommendation came out of the AI task force report, which I believe you have on your desks. It's this sort of fancy color report. And I think that President Dagler actually spoke on this at your public hearing about it. He was one of the co-chairs of the AI task force, which was created by executive order. So this is a one-time $300,000 general fund appropriation.
All right. So you're suggesting we go through each of these, or should we call the commissioner up? And
It's your prerogative if you want to do them one by one and vote, or if you, however you want to do it.
okay. So I think it'd be good to have your presence at the podium here, just if folks have questions on each of these. And what has worked in the past is pulling out any that people may have questions on or concerns about, and taking a vote overall if we can, and on individuals if we need to. So I'd like to proceed in that way if possible. And Commissioner, if you'd like to introduce yourself, and then we can kind of continue down the list and see if people have questions.
Good morning, Senator Tipping, Representative Rader, members of the Joint Standing Committee on Labor. My name is Laura Fortman, and I am the Commissioner of the Department of Labor. I'm happy to be with you this morning.
And any questions from committee members on that first item? Representative Rader.
This might be a bit of a larger question, but this is for grant programs. Is there a current grant program that is analogous to this that has given out grants for certain workforce development issues in the past? And what has the efficacy been? Because this would be a brand new grant for a brand new program, correct?
Representative Rader, that is correct. This would be brand new. As Mr. Langland said, this was a result of the AI task force and recognizing the need that both workers and employers were looking for ways to adapt in this changing environment of AI. There is no specific program that we currently administer that is directly analogous, but we frequently, we work with workforce providers across the state. We put out RFPs on a regular basis, and then those programs are evaluated based on whatever the particular metrics are that are attached to the grant.
And I know that the grant is not fully fleshed out or anything like that, or any of the qualifications there, but if you had to describe sort of the end goal of what the granting money should achieve within the programs that apply for that, like they should have X number of skills, or we're hoping that workers will be able to enter at this level into the workplace when we're talking about AI.
Yeah, I think part of it is, and this is part of a much bigger, and I think President Dagler talked about this, the overall initiative is much larger and has a variety of components to it. And so our piece, this $300,000 piece, if it is funded, would be part of that larger whole. But I think what we're looking for are ways to increase basic AI literacy, and then respond to employers as well to hear what their primary concerns are. So as you said, Representative, this is definitely not fully fleshed out at this point. It would be, we would be working on it with the partner organizations.
Other questions, Representative Beck?
Thank you, Senator. Good morning. The credentialing standards for AI, do those exist already?
Thank you, Representative Beck. I think it's aspirational at this point, and I think President Dagler mentioned that as part of the public hearing, that those are things that are in the works. We are trying very hard to not miss this opportunity to become AI literate and maximize the benefit, while at the same time making sure that we minimize any negative impacts as well, Representative Beck. So this is definitely a work in progress.
Thank you for that. So credentialing standards might be if somebody completes an apprenticeship, that they can have that extra title, right, of expert or whatever the title might eventually be.
Yes, thank you, Representative Beck. And apprenticeship is one of those areas that we're looking at, since we're doing so much work in apprenticeship, and there is a national interest in that. Also, there's a national interest in advanced manufacturing and AI. So we are very much in the exploratory phase of like what works for Maine. There is not a specific credential that it's not a cookie cutter approach, but rather how do we look at what's available currently in Maine? What are the needs of both the employers? What would help position workers better in this environment?
Thank you.
I'll say that the president, when we asked him at the previous hearing, did say they were looking more at short-term credentials than like a full degree granting credential around AI. Representative Macias.
Good morning, thank you. So these competitive grants, are these for workforce training organizations just in Maine or nationally? And are there organizations that we're already looking at to fulfill this?
Thank you, Representative Macias. It is not limited at this point. No RFP has been drafted at this point. So I can't answer whether it would be just in-state or out-of-state as well. We'd be looking for certain expertise.
Representative Rader.
Are you aware of any grant-making organizations in the state currently or any other funding sources that are specifically looking at increasing funding for individuals and organizations to train on AI? I'm just thinking about the Alpha and continuing education grants that are out right now.
So Representative Rader, I think that's why we're partnering with the community college system. The intent is not to duplicate opportunities that are already there, but rather to leverage them. And on the AI task force, the University of Maine was part of it, the Rue Institute, the community college. So there were, I believe, most of the educational institutions in the state of, post-secondary education were represented on that task force.
Senator Bradstreet and then
Yeah.
Representative Archer.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Commissioner.
morning.
Thank you for being here. Trying to recall what the President Degler said about the overall scope of this. I think there are several different areas where AI is going to be involved, and you're going to be integrated with other initiatives, for instance, the Department of Education.
Mhm.
And I believe there's something overseeing all this so that they are coordinated. This will be part of a larger effort then.
That's correct,
Okay.
Senator Bradstreet.
And this is targeted mostly toward workforce training where others may be other avenues. Okay, I have one more question too. Always looking to save taxpayer money.
Mhm.
Do you have any criteria where you look at other programs and determine that they're maybe less valuable than they were initially and then cut back on those and transfer some of the money to this program, a program such as this? Do you evaluate
So
other training programs?
We consistently evaluate the programs that we provide. I believe Representative Rader had asked, do we have grant-making programs like this? This is not how we normally do our work. Normally, the work is based on either a particular sector that we're focused on or an individual need, like the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. It's all individual. It's funded based on the individuals. All of our programs look at criteria such as, did people complete the program? Did they increase their wages? Are they still in the workforce 2 quarters after they completed programs? So that's the evaluation that we do consistently. And we would take that same kind of framework and apply it to this kind of a program. Okay.
Thank you.
Representative Archer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner, so I don't mind saying this, but I'm a cautious advocate for AI in the workforce. I say cautious just because it's probably similar to it was before I was born, but when we brought computers into the workforce, business world, and they're like, oh, we can't make it in paper. What happens? All the information gets deleted. Well, we've surpassed that. That was just part of the growing pains. My concern more is about this tool getting into society with us not knowing how to use it and the ethics from it. Will these programs have a component of ethical considerations? Again, AI, I'm currently studying a little bit at UMaine with this, and I know AI hallucinates, where it just makes up data, and if you ask it to confirm, it will confirm it, and if you go try to verify. My concern is that we take the results of AI and just accept it as status quo or prima facie, and I really want ethics to be part of this. Like I said, I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm interested in funding this. But I really want to make sure that our users really understand, not how it works per se, but some of the issues that can derive from not being a learned individual of this tool.
Great. Thank you, Representative Archer. And that is actually one of the areas that the AI task force spent a lot of time on as well. And as Senator Bradstreet mentioned, this piece of it is tied to that overarching initiative. So any of the programs would be taking that into consideration. There's also a component in there for state government as well. And those guardrails and ethical considerations would be baked into any of the work that we were doing.
All right, and I would say that we saw in the testimony from the community college president there that they're looking at a $200 million investment that's not before us, but to the Office of Information Technology, specifically around data management and governance practices with AI, also training state employees to safely, responsibly, and effectively use it. So that is a part of their outlay here as well. Representative Drinkwater.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
Do you have a number, a dollar amount on how much money we put into these competitive grants through the Department of Labor? How much of money is already sitting out there for these grants to develop workforce?
Representative Drinkwater, that is not, let me try to answer it. Grants to develop workforce. The way that our system normally works is that the federal government grants come into the state through the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. And then the local workforce boards receive that money, and then they would put out RFPs for some of the service delivery. We receive roughly, I'll double check, about $7 million.
7 million.
Around $7 million comes to us that then goes out to the communities.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to item 2 here.
So item 2, still on page 1, is under Employment Security Services. This initiative transfers one principal economic research analyst position from the Employment Security Services Program Federal Expenditures Fund to the Workforce Research Program Federal Expenditures Fund. And the justification provided is that the initiative transfers one principal economic research analyst position between programs within DOL in order to more accurately account for work effort.
Any questions or additional comment on that? I think we can probably keep moving down the list then.
So at the bottom of page 1, the next initiative is still under Employment Security Services. Employment Services Activity. And this initiative transfers one office specialist, one position from the Workforce Research Program to the Employment Services Activity Program to align the funding with the work being performed. And that justification is this position was historically assigned to the Center for Workforce Research and Information Program. And the work of the center has evolved and reduced its need for administrative support staff. Once vacated, the position was repurposed to provide support for the Bureau of Employment Services. The position now provides administrative support for the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act programs and is being transferred to the Bureau of Employment Services. The next initiative, still on page 2, is under Employment Services Activity. This initiative provides funding to align allocations with projected expenditures and available resources. The justification for this initiative is that the initiative increases allotment in all other for the industry-driven skills training fund grant that'll be utilized to establish the Defense Shipbuilding and Advanced Manufacturing Training Account to directly support employer-informed skills training for new hires and incumbent workers.
All right. Seeing no questions on that, we'll keep going.
The sort of the third portion of the second page, employment services activity, reference number 569. This initiative continues one limited period career center consultant position previously established by financial order in fiscal year 25-26 through June 19th, 2027, and provides funding for related all other costs. The justification for this initiative is that the Career Center consultant serves as a clean energy career navigator to raise awareness of career opportunities in the clean energy and energy efficiency fields, and to connect current and future job seekers with training opportunities and job placement services. Funding is provided by a memorandum of understanding with the Maine Office of Community Affairs.
Representative Macias.
Thank you. So just going back to the Defense Ship and Advanced Manufacturing Training Account. So we're funding a defense and shipbuilding for BIW as a training pipeline. We're establishing this.
So, thank you for the question, Representative Macias. This is a grant that we received from the federal government. And what this does is it allows us to spend the money. We received an $8 million grant from the U.S. Department of Labor to focus on defense, advanced manufacturing, and the way this is set up is that 90% of the funding must go to employers to reimburse them for training. BIW is one of the applicants that would be eligible, as well as organizations like Pratt & Whitney, as well as manufacturers such as, in Kennebec County, Kennebec Technologies. They will be required to do the training, and this would be a reimbursement for the training. We're in the process of developing the applications now, and we hope to have the program up and running this spring.
Representative Rader.
So, pardon me for possibly being a little slow on this. Was this part of the funding that Secretary Hegseth announced at BIW recently?
I'm not sure what
Okay.
Secretary Hegseth announced.
Mhm.
This was part of a US DOL announcement.
Mhm.
Maine was one of a handful of states that did receive this federal grant.
Representative Drinkwater.
Thank you. So the Defense Shipbuilding and Advanced Manufacturing account,
Mhm.
is that a brand new account? Is this something we're just starting? Or is there funds in that account already?
The funds are the federal funds and they are in the account.
So
So it was a grant that we received and that the funds from that grant were deposited
all right,
into
so this is a
account.
brand new account, is
Mhm.
what we're talking about.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions on that one or the next? Okay, we'll keep moving.
So at the bottom of page 2, it starts the Maine Apprenticeship Program Initiative and continues at the top of page 3. This initiative continues one limited period career center consultant position previously established by Public Law 2023, Chapter 683 through June 17th, 2028. And the initiative is just extending the date of the position from July 31st of this year to June 17th of 2028. There is a language piece that's involved with this, and that's part TTT.
Folks want to take a second to look at the language. Okay, and so that's coming from the Adult Use Cannabis Public Health and Safety Municipal Opt-in Fund.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, seeing no questions, we'll keep going.
Senator, may I clarify, in response to Representative Drinkwater's question. The account itself is part of our normal budgeting process. The grant is the part that is new. Is that correct? So it's $8 million in federal grants. We routinely receive specific discretionary grants. We apply for the grant. It's a competitive process. If we get it, that money comes into the department's budget, and then we need authorization in order to spend it in the way that the grant says. So I'm not sure. I just felt like I didn't quite answer your question. The grant is brand new. The money is there.
Right. And so having an account for it is a
Right.
transparency and a bookkeeping feature. Okay.
So the next initiative on page 3 is under rehabilitation services. This initiative continues 3 limited period rehabilitation counselor 2 positions previously established by financial order in fiscal year 25-26 through June 19th, 2027, and provides funding for related all other costs. The justification for this is the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation assists eligible individuals with disabilities who wish to achieve or retain employment. Rehabilitation counselors provide services for the provision of rehabilitation services to persons with physical, emotional, or mental health disabilities. Work includes counseling persons with disabilities in selecting, preparing for, and following a rehabilitative program, such as job development and placement services in order to improve employment outcomes for individuals with disabilities.
Okay.
At the bottom of page 3 is an initiative under the State Workforce Investment Board. This initiative provides funding to align allocations with projected expenditures and available resources. And the justification for this is on page 4 at the top, and it says this initiative increases allotment in the all other line category to align with the Federal Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act grant.
It's a small but a very round number that they've determined they need here. Okay. Seeing no questions on that.
So the next initiative on page 4 is under workforce research. This initiative transfers 1 office specialist 1 position from the workforce research program to the employment services activity program to align the funding with the work being performed. The justification for this initiative is that this position was historically assigned to the Center for Workforce Research and Innovation Program. The work of the center has evolved and has reduced its need for administrative support staff. Once vacated, the position was repurposed to provide support for the Bureau of Employment Services, and the position now provides administrative support for WIOA programs and is being transferred to the Bureau of Employment Services. And the final initiative on page 4 is under workforce research as well. This initiative transfers 1 principal economic research analyst position from the Employment Security Services Program Federal Expenditures Fund to the Workforce Research Program Federal Expenditures Fund. And the justification provided for this initiative is that it transfers the principal economic research analyst position between programs within DOL in order to more accurately account for work effort.
All right, not seeing any questions there. Senator Bradstreet.
573, is that related to another issue we had earlier?
Yes, it is.
There's a slight difference in the dollar amount here, but here, I think they're 92,962 negative 92,830.
I think Deputy Commissioner Kim Smith can answer that question if you would like.
Good
Not a
morning.
big thing.
The difference is because of the state overhead that is assessed. Each account in state government has a slightly different indirect cost rate. And so by shifting it, that rate changes for the position.
Thank you.
Then in the language portion here, there is 1 change that Commissioner you requested at the hearing. Would you like to address that?
So this is to clarify a position within the Division of the Blind and Visually Impaired. And years ago, when this division became part of the Department of Labor, this language was omitted, and in it, it has the Commissioner of Labor appointing this person. That has never happened, and we want to make sure that this is clarified in the statute.
And the hearing in front of AFA was very thorough. There were a couple questions from that. Is there anything more you'd like to present in general? Either responding to questions or characterizing any of these budgetary requests? Okay.
I'm happy to answer any questions that any member of the committee has. I believe that Senator Bradstreet and Representative Collins had some very specific questions about history of unemployment insurance and solvency rates. And we did prepare a short document for you on that. And Representative Collins had some questions about vacancies. I could quickly answer any questions. I think on the unemployment, we pulled together some information quickly. We have reams and reams of information about UI. If you would like that, we would be happy to provide it. But the short summary is that back in the 1990s, the UI Trust Fund was constantly in a state of insolvency and cuts to benefits. And the legislature dealt with that every year. People would come in, say that we need to put a surtax on employers, we need to cut benefits in order to make it through the year. The legislature in the late 1990s, roughly 1997, created a study committee to thoroughly examine the UI Trust Fund and what could be done differently, better. There was a committee in 1998 that looked at that. I may be one of the few people left around here who actually participated in that study committee. Peter Gore and David Clow were also not on the committee, but very actively involved. Legislation was presented after long debate. The current system was created. It is a system that has remained solvent during the Great Recession and also during the pandemic. It has multiple levers that are used in order to maintain solvency. I believe it's one of the few programs in the country that has weathered the kind of challenges. And one of the big things that employers were asking for at the time was predictability. And the system that was put in place is predictable because it adapts to less money is taken in during good times and reserves are there during bad times. During the pandemic, there was an infusion of CARES Act money. The governor felt very strongly to make sure that the trust fund was solvent. We were one of, I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but I will say that many, many states, their trust fund was insolvent. The employers in those states had to pay surtaxes and borrow. We were not in that situation. We are currently at Schedule A, which is the lowest schedule. We have been at Schedule A for at least the last 2 years. It may have been 3 years. During the pandemic, we did go to Schedule B. So I would just say happy to talk about this.
And that, just to be clear, schedules are the rate of payment.
Yes.
Yeah, so the
Yeah.
lowest rate. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, there's more detail in 2-page double-sided white paper memo that says unemployment trust fund solvency and DOL position information is the type.
Mhm.
Any questions on that? Representative Drinkwater.
Thank you. I don't know where this ties into what we're talking about on the budget, but perhaps we should have a time set aside that we can talk specifically about this, because there are questions, and I know Representative Sobolewski would like to attend because he has questions also. So do you want to open this up or should we hold this for
Well, I think we
time
can,
slot in the
we can
future?
always ask those questions and receive responses. So I guess if it's not pertaining to a particular budget line, I would say um, let's do that and keep it separate if that works for you, Representative Drinkwater.
It would make more sense to me that we could put more time into it.
Okay, let's have some conversations offline as chairs and leads on how that might work out if that works. Senator Bradstreet.
Thank you. I'd just like to ask the commissioner one thing. What process would we have to go through in order to revisit what we're doing with the fund right now? It seems to a lot of people there's an more than adequate amount in there to cover any losses, even several years into the future. Is there a process to go through a review to see if that we need to keep the status quo?
I would defer to you. The process that we are using was created as the result of lengthy legislative and involvement in public comment. And I
So that would lie with this
So
legislative body to do that. Okay.
I would say, yeah, I mean, we
Thank
can
you.
always put in legislation on these issues if we want. But I understand there's a lot of stakeholders that we've heard from when this issue has come up that have said, don't touch things. But that hasn't stopped us, on other issues. We can certainly have those conversations. Mr. Langland, is there more in terms of review here that we should undertake?
No, I mean, that's all of the initiatives that pertain to your jurisdiction that you've been asked to provide input on.
All right. What I would suggest next, and let me know if this works on your end, is that we do some caucuses and come back, and that at that point we make a decision if there are any items in here that we want to take out and have individual votes on. My sense is that there's a lot of things in here that are pretty routine and that we might be able to just pass all together, but there might be some items that folks have issues with. Am I reading that correctly? Seeing nods from Representative Drinkwater at least. And I would also ask members to take a look at the white sheet with bills on special appropriations table at the top that Mr. Langland has put together for us. And if there are items that we want to suggest to AFA that they find funding for, we can also report back that in a narrative portion. Okay. Senator Bradstreet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm wondering, we do have one work session scheduled here for LD 2218. I'm not sure how long that would take. I wonder if it would be possible to maybe push that ahead in the schedule. I see we have an interested person out there in the audience.
So the suggestion here is to do the work session on that and then caucus on both that bill and the budget. Okay, that works for me. That seems to be the will of the committee. We will move next to a work session on 2218, and I would just thank again Commissioner Fortman for being here and for running us through it.
So I didn't have anything prepared for LD 2218. I thought it was pretty straightforward. You do have testimony that was submitted yesterday from Mr. Daly, and there was a follow-up question about sort of the costs of the per diems for calendar year 2025. And there is this sheet that I provided you. Mr. Daly followed up and by his review, the amount was $25.50, and that includes 4 days of hearings, 3 deliberations, and 8 pre-hearing conferences. And again, the bill changes the per diem rate from $75 a day to $150 a day for members, and changes it from $100 a day to $200 a day for the chair.
So we've had a lot of conversations about this one. We also have Mr. Daly here again. Representative Archer, did you have a question?
Just a quick question. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just by looking at with us pretty much doubling the salary and seeing that it's 2,500, it's fair to say that this bill estimate $5,100 a year, doubling what the estimate that just came to us, and we're doubling the rate of pay.
Well,
Well, I think it would depend on how many people file. So you heard yesterday from Mr. Daly that not everybody
Yeah.
gets to the final stage where that payment is required. And it's my understanding as well that the costs are split between the parties. So so it could vary, but I think he said that generally it's the average is between 4 and 8 times a year that this would be essentially used.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion on this? All right, let's break for a little bit here and we'll come back. Let's go back on mic here and on video. And welcome back. We're continuing our work session on the state budget, LD 2212. And our plan is to break out any individual items and continue to have conversation and then take the rest as a group. Are there any items that folks would like to have a bit more time on? And I would recognize Representative Rader.
I was looking at that $300,000 for the AI grants, and while it sounds like an interesting idea, as someone who has participated in the RFP process for the state, I know sometimes those grants, that funding go to the lowest bidder, not necessarily the folks who have experience and expertise in that area. Also, in talking about AI, I feel like that's got to be part of everything going forward anyway. We're always going to bring AI into everything like this. But the reason that I have questions about it is because every year that I've been in this committee, I keep hearing, well, we can't fund an ongoing enforcement position for these bills, so we're not going to pass them. We have a lot of good bills about labor law enforcement that happen that die for lack of funding for personnel. So for me, it just, I can't do it.
Well, let's consider that a motion to move that item out of the rest of them here. We'll do just show of hands for straw vote on that. Moving it out. Consideration. Oh, we are moving it out to a later discussion. Yeah, we're gonna have an additional vote on that, just to be maximally confusing here. Are there any other items that people would like to move out of consideration before we review the rest as one group? Representative Drinkwater.
Yes, we could move out 569 and 576.
All right. And I guess, if we're doing it this way, we don't need a straw vote on each of those to move it out, and we'll make things simpler, just have votes on them individually. So that is 569 under employment services activity. And what was the other one?
576.
576 main apprenticeship program. Okay. Any others that people feel the need for more conversation about? Representative Archer.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to put this to the committee's information and should I abstain or not? It's really more about that. I am employed by a contract of 565. I have no direct or indirect benefit, nor do I have any influence over it, but I wanted this body to know it. And do I need to abstain?
All right.
If not, then keep it in.
All right. Appreciate the abundance of caution there. I think understanding your situation, you don't have a specific financial interest in the outcome of that. So we should be all right, but I appreciate the transparency there. Seeing no other items, let's take up everything but those three and have a straw vote here just on moving those forward and recommending their continuance in the budget. And so we'll say all those in favor. And as unanimous of those here. All right. And then let's dig into those three. Representative Rader, you've begun to talk a little bit about that section 821. Is there more you'd like to say there?
Just, I think there are better uses for that kind of money within the labor budget.
Okay. Any further discussion on that? So let's have, this would be structured as an affirmative vote to approve this item. And those that wish it not to go forward would vote then in opposition to this straw vote motion. So all those in favor of continuing with this line item? And we able to record those? And all those opposed? All right, and let's move next to 569. Representative Drinkwater, would you like to discuss this one, or do you have questions for the commissioner or others?
Thank you, Senator. We're just concerned that with the cutback in a lot of the federal funding for programs, et cetera. And the second point would be that we've got a lot of positions that are unfilled on the unemployment, and this has actually got to do with the Career Center, that we feel that perhaps we should take some of that money from the unfilled positions and fill that position. Thank you.
Would you like comment from the commissioner on the details of that, or?
I don't think that.
We've had enough.
Need to.
Okay.
If she would like to, she's more than welcome to.
Representative Rader?
Well, I understand the argument behind that. I also just do want to remind folks what we heard several budget cycles ago, it feels like a million years ago, is that yes, those positions may go unfilled, but the work is not undone. So we're paying for people's overtime. We're paying for other employees to take that on, sometimes paying for contractors to do that. So the work of the unfilled position still has to get done somehow. And I'm okay that way.
All right. Seeing no further discussion on that one, we'll have a vote again, an affirmative motion to include this in our budget recommendation. All those in favor? And all those opposed? Our first party line vote. All right, and Representative Drinkwater, would you like to address 576?
Yes, my position would be the same, that we have 110 vacancies, and we could just use some of the funding to fill that position.
And I'd say, I mean, just for me, the Maine apprenticeship program is, I think, one of the most important things that we've heard about in this committee and ongoing initiatives, and I want to provide them as much support as we can. Any further discussion on that? All right, again, an affirmative vote. Those who wish to include this in our budget recommendation, raise your hand. And those opposed? Okay. We have also the ability to report back narrative portion, any recommendations we'd like to make to the AFA committee. I would like to propose, based on the repeated, some would say repetitive recommendations of this committee, to finally address the pension cuts and make things more fair for teachers and other public employees, that we continue as a committee to recommend the funding of specific bills that would address the situation of Maine retirees. On our list of those that are on the table, these would include, for example, 111, 1003, and 328, as well as LD 1872, which may not be on the table, but would similarly address those issues. And I guess I would make a motion, if that is specific enough, Mr. Langland, to include that in a narrative portion there. Is there, I guess we don't need a second, we're doing straw votes here, but is there discussion on that? Representative Rader?
Just that I concur with the list of bills that you pulled out, and want to underline and highlight that 1872 is a way to fix things. And we might not have to have this conversation in 10 years if we are able to pass 1872. Thank you.
And I would just say as well that there are a number of important bills that we have that are waiting for funding, some of them with my name on them that I care a lot about, But in terms of the priorities of the committee, I feel like that has been the ongoing priority here. Representative Collins.
Do you mind listing the numbers again? Thank you.
Yeah, the ones I have are 111, which is an act to increase the state's share of retired teacher health insurance. 1003, which is an act establishing the Retirement Benefit Improvement Fund that doesn't have a fiscal note, but it begins to create the fund that money can be put into. 328, the title is an act requiring the state to pay retired state employees or retired teachers premium for Medicare Part B under Medicare Advantage. And the reason to highlight both those healthcare ones is they don't trigger the UAL. So they don't have, for instance, appreciate Senator Baldacci's bill that we have sitting on the table, but it has a $1.6 billion fiscal note. Little here, a little there. And then I would also include 1872, which doesn't begin having a fiscal impact until 2028, but may have the biggest effect in transferring that money to increase the amount that is subject to the COLA for those employees and finally reverse some of those cuts. So that would be my recommendation for committee priorities. Are there other bills that people would like to highlight or have a discussion about? Representative Beck.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just since we're discussing it, LD 1003 seems to have many of the same goals and perhaps the same methodology as LD 1872. Do you know offhand how we can differentiate between those two bills?
I'm going to look at Mr. Langland here, but my understanding was that that 1003 actually just created the fund that money could be put into. 1872 was the mechanism where in 2018 or 2028 money began moving.
Okay, that explains it. Thank you.
Representative Rader.
Just a plug for LD 522 from Representative Copeland because it's $5,000. And if we don't put it into the budget, does anybody want to start a GoFundMe with me?
All right, we have a motion to create a GoFundMe. And I would just say too, there are lots of bills that we worked on, and I think individual lobbying of AFA members is always appreciated by them, I'm sure. But I think, yeah, in terms of committee priorities, those would be mine. Representative Drinkwater, did you have thoughts?
Yes, thank you. We have not really drilled down on this because I was under the impression that when we do our priority cards that we fill out, that we would fill that out with our priorities. Did I hear that you wanted to take votes as a committee on some of these? Because we did not really drill down in
Yeah.
our little caucus.
Well, we can certainly take more time if we need to within the next little bit. But Mr. Langham, maybe you can walk us through the process. In this moment with this, just the supplemental budget, we have an opportunity to also send a message along with our recommendations to AFA. And this is a time where we can talk about some of these bills. So I would recommend taking that opportunity.
Yeah, and you're right that typically in years past, what will happen is toward the end of session, I think sort of after the budget is passed or right before the budget's passed, you'll get guidance from the Appropriations Committee about what bills that came from this committee that are on the special appropriations table, and then you'll be asked to rank them in priority with the amount of money that's left. But as Senator Tipping said, there's nothing that precludes you from asking for that now as part of your budget memo or anything like that. So that's, I think, one reason that he is doing this. But I think last year, I don't remember the committee being asked last year for priorities. So I think there might be some concern going around among legislators generally that perhaps they're sort of scared that they're going to miss the opportunity to provide input to AFA on bills on the table, because I don't remember committee guidance coming out from AFA last year that asked for that. So this might be sort of a preemptive, you didn't ask, but we're doing it anyway kind of thing, because you might not ask.
Yeah, I mean, there may be some concern that they don't fully ask in the same way with the supplemental budget, but I would just say too that the budget is being decided right now, they're moving things in and out. It is an opportunity for some of these bills to get funded. There's also obviously the table funding, which we may or may not have money for to fund things. And that's often when those priorities come into effect. Senator Bradstreet.
So at some point in time, we'll be able to offer our priorities. Are you talking about something later or?
So I think they may ask us for our priorities or not. And then also our caucuses may ask us for our priorities for table bills. But I also am just understanding that this is a point in this budget process where we can offer our committee priorities. And we have some that we have offered many times that I feel like would be good to continue to offer.
Okay, thank you. And I just like to state that sometimes my own priorities, I look at them not necessarily as what thing I'd like to see most, but what's more financially doable.
Right.
So I know if we want something that's 1.6 billion, it's not going to fly.
Right.
Something 44 million might not fly. And yet it might be a higher
Something
priority for
5,000
me.
might not fly.
Okay. Okay, so I'd like to see it offer our separate priorities. That's all. Thank you.
So, and that was the intent with these specific ones too. The ones I listed did not include the 1.6 billion. It was the smaller healthcare ones that may seem more feasible. Although probably not. I don't want to get anyone's hopes up here. Cool. So, is there a request to have a brief caucus on this suggestion before we take a vote?
I would suggest that, but I think we can dispose of the other per diem bill quite quickly.
Okay.
Oh.
If we want to just take care of that while
The
we're
work
sitting
session.
here.
Let Mr. Daly go. Does that work for you, Mr. Langland, if we break work sessions here and go to that one? I'm going to look to Representative Drinkwater. Do you have a motion on LD 2218?
Yes, I do, ought to pass.
Ought to pass. Is there a second? Representative Collins seconds. Any discussion on that motion? I would ask our clerk to take the roll.
If I may, Mr. Speaker. And as she's walking up, I would like to say that, it's been a long time since they've had a raise in their per diem. And again, this is not taxpayer money. This is funded by the parties that are involved. And I think it was a reasonable ask on their behalf.
Representative Rader.
I just want to thank Representative Drinkwater for bringing this up as a possible thing we could do for them, but also sorry that they asked me to sponsor it and not you.
I see.
Senator Bradstreet.
Thank you. Yes, I was going to try at one point in time offer a compromise, but given the I would smaller than I anticipated amount that's expended, I'm all in favor of the bill as presented. Thank you.
One last chance. Seeing no further. Oh, Representative Collins, go ahead.
I don't know if this is appropriate, but you bringing this up, the department, not just this department, but all the departments should do a better job of working with both sides of the aisle to bring these bills forward so that we can continue to work on civility within this house across the way. That's all I have to say. So thank you for allowing me to make that statement.
One last check. All right. Eliana, Becca, thank you to our clerk for taking the roll.
I have the motion ought to pass made by Rep. Drinkwater and second by Rep. Collins. Senator Tipping.
Yes.
Senator Tipping, yes. Rep. Rader.
Yes.
Rep. Rader, yes. Rep. Archer.
Aye.
Rep. Archer, yes. Senator Bradstreet.
Yes.
Senator Bradstreet, yes. Rep. Drinkwater.
Yes.
Rep. Drinkwater, yes. Rep. Beck.
Yes.
Rep. Beck, yes. Rep. Collins.
Yes.
Rep. Collins, yes. Unanimous of all those present.
Okay, thank you. We'll take a brief caucus here.
Yes. All at once. Say it real fast.
All right. We are returned and we have a motion here to include a narrative portion of our report back to the Appropriations and Financial Affairs Committee, including a recommendation that action be taken to make retirees, teachers and public employees whole, including recommendations around some specific bills that we had a conversation about before. Is there additional discussion on this idea?
I guess my, got a little brain fog going on. You want to do the yeses first, the nos first? Group, you want to group them or you want to go down through individually?
Well, for the bills, I think my recommendation was not to like go through the bills individually. But if there are some that you would like to put forward as potentially being a priority for the whole committee to report back, we could have that conversation. My proposal was our narrative instead be just do something for retirees. Here are a couple of examples, and the ones we talked about were 111, 1872, 1003, and 328.
All right, give me those numbers again.
Sure. So these are in our packet. 111 is an act to increase the state share of retired teacher health insurance. 328 is an act requiring the state to pay retired state employees or retired teachers premiums for Medicare Part B under Medicare Advantage. You may be sensing a theme here. And 1003 did not have a specific fiscal note, but it establishes the Retirement Benefit Improvement Fund. And then 1872 is the bill that we discussed that begins shifting money in 2028 when we've paid off some of our bills into increasing the COLA cap level for those employees and reversing some of those cuts. So that was my recommendation that we put forward a broader just narrative block here that says AFA, this is our committee priority. Please do something for retirees. Here are some suggestions that aren't $1.6 billion. But if we also want to include recommendations on other specific bills, we can have that conversation right now. Senator Bradstreet.
Yes, thank you. We just caucused. We're not in agreement with some of those that you mentioned, but we did have some others that we would look favorably upon, which I think are more reflective, I think, of the votes of the committee at the time.
Okay. Would you like to
Okay.
discuss those?
I could mention those. LD 111. LD 137. LD 462. LD 579. LD 703. And I think unless some of the other caucus members could correct me on that.
Okay. So perhaps to make this simple for Mr. Langland here, it's kind of two areas I'm seeing. One is retiree support here. Another is the special plan. I mean, also retirees, but a different way here. And that includes the mental health workers in 579, the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner in 137. And then seems in its own bucket here is the healthcare gap year program, which is a $250,000 outlay. I would be fine with that as a friendly amendment to mine, that we're saying we want to do something for retirees in general, including, for example, 111. 462, I think, kind of fits within that bucket. And the others that we've mentioned. And then another bucket of, we also believe there are some folks that deserve consideration in the special plan, including 579 and 137. And then also include a recommendation around 703 as another committee priority. Is that something we could have unanimity on perhaps? Okay. All right, I think that's when our recommendations carry the most weight, is if we can all get behind them, so I appreciate that. So that is a friendly amendment. Mr. Langland, is that in detail enough for you?
Let me read it back and see if I'm way off base. So you want a general narrative about retirement and sort of the language of being the people affected by the 2011 cuts being whole, right?
Yep.
And you're proposing that there are several ways to do that, including bills on the table, including 111, which you all agree on.
Mhm.
And is 462, does that fall in that category? Or is
I
that a
mean, it's,
separate retirement?
it's kind of separate, but
Okay,
the
so,
same in workers, yeah.
yeah, and then you also want a description of other folks that are deserving to be in the special plan, including the folks in LD 137 and 579.
Mhm.
And then you all agree that you want to fund LD 703, which is separate, but. And then how do you feel about the other bills that you proposed?
So I think as long as the language is in there that we want to do, we want to support the retirement of these people, we can just include 111 as an example
Okay, so
of
forgetting
that, but that there are
1003.
other bills that, you know,
Okay.
would also fulfill that without getting into
Okay,
details
so
there.
that was sort of my next question was, you're not recommending necessarily that these bills be funded, you're just recommending that something be done, and these are examples of what could be done?
I mean, for me, that makes sense because we have so many bills that are trying to address that issue. And I think AFA knows what those are. We can say, do something about this, and here's one example. Because I doubt they're gonna take our advice and fund all of them, so. And then those other buckets I think are fine.
Okay.
Any discussion on that, objections to that plan? Senator Bradstreet.
Yeah, just, I have a question about you. So your amendment is essentially the bills that we talked about, there was agreement on.
Basically the ones that you listed just with that narrative piece that,
Okay, okay.
yeah, trying to put them in some context.
Okay. Not 1872 or some of the others that you referred to. Okay, thank you.
That's right. I mean, AFA may take what we're saying about supporting retirees to mean 1872 and others, but which I think is maybe a compromise to get us all in a place there. Yeah. They're gonna do it. They're gonna do it. All right. So I think at that point, if there's no more discussion, we can take a vote on that. All those in favor? That is unanimous to those present. All right. So that is our last straw vote on the budget. I'll say, folks that are not here today have until 5 p.m. today to get votes recorded on any of the straw votes that we've taken specifically by email to Mr. Langland, and then he will be submitting that this evening to AFA. Anything more you want to say about that?
Can I just clarify? So we didn't really talk about the language pieces that much, but there was a request at the public hearing to amend part JJJ.
Right.
So I guess the motion would technically be in as amended and then striking that last sentence. It seemed like there was no disagreement among anyone on that.
Any objections there? Okay.
The other thing is part TTT, you didn't take a vote on specifically, but I assume that because some folks opposed reference number 576 at the top of page 3, that you also, you don't want to, if you don't want that initiative in, which four of you voted yes, 3 of you voted no to move that in. So the 3 of you that voted no to move that in, I assume you don't want part TTT either, because that is the language that funds the position, so.
For those that voted no, is that accurate? Okay.
Okay. I'll throw something together and check your emails later. It's gonna be important.
We appreciate your quick work on that. All right, we have left on our docket, continuing our review of quasi-state entities. And where are we on this?
Yep. So I have something to hand out. Let's see. So we took up the quasis a couple of weeks ago on, I think, February 17th. And if you recall, you had some questions from Maine PERS about sort of their, the waiving of their competitive bidding process. So you had asked me to get more information from them. I think specifically some of the issues that came up was the Zoom contract and the sort of the reasoning that was given by them. And you were wondering if Maine PERS has looked into alternatives such as Google Meets or Microsoft Teams. You also had raised a question about Hartford Group Life Insurance. It was on the 2024 report, but not on the 2025 report, and you were wondering why that was. You also had some more general questions about the things, such as why the large contracts that are pre-existing and sort of how long are those contracts typically. So we do have representative from Maine PERS today. We have Michael Colleran, who's I think Chief Operating Officer as well as General Counsel. So he should be able to shed some light on that. You should have in front of you, hopefully, the information to work from. I don't know if perhaps maybe some of you took your folders with you or whatever, but this was sort of all of the white paper. And that was sort of, you had all of the policies and the procurement contracts, et cetera. So hopefully you have that. If not, this is going to be a little harder, but Representative Drinkwater gets an A. He's got his.
I think that's what's in with the binder clip. Is that correct here?
I don't know if everyone binder clipped it or I don't know. But
Things just appear on my desk, so I don't know.
same, honestly. And I did attach to the email that I just went over with you, typically what happens when you finalize your review of the quasi-independent entities, you send a report in the form of a letter generally to the Government Oversight Committee. I'm happy to report that that was due March 1st, so we're not meeting that deadline either. So doing very well today. And I put together an example of what that could look like if you decide that Maine PERS is, you don't have any concerns or whatever. And I'm certainly open to changing that. I just wanted to flag for you what that would look like. So that's on the second page of the packet.
Great.
With that, I think it makes sense to perhaps invite Mr. Colleran up and to go over some of the information requests that you had.
Sounds good. Mr. Colleran, welcome, and thank you for sticking with us this morning. So these is what we,
So that, I'm sorry, I remember the paperclip thing now. So that is the annual report.
okay,
So not everybody has that, but I'm not talking about that, so.
okay. So
So my bad.
I'm not sure we have folders in front of us with the
Okay.
entire
For the quasi-independent entities.
review.
If not, it might have got stuffed in your cubby holes. I don't know if, I also have, someone can have my copy. We might have some extra copies as well. Yep, I think it's that, yep. Yep. You probably all took it home and you haven't memorized. That's what's going on, so that's why you can't find it, so. Use
We-
the wallpaper.
decoupaged my doc.
Yeah, I'm sure it's.
We all reviewed it thoroughly. Mr. Cullen, thank you for being here. There were a few questions that we had, and there may be more today. But first, is there anything you'd like to say or provide information here?
Yes, good morning. Steve did pass some of your questions on to us, and I am prepared to address those and any other questions you might have today. I'll start with the questions about the Zoom procurement. We originally contracted with Zoom during the pandemic, as many other entities did at that point. Prior to that, we didn't have a remote meeting platform. We needed one emergently, so we contracted with Zoom. At that time, our cost was less than $10,000 a year, so it wasn't required to go through a competitive procurement process. But over the next couple of years, as their rates went up and we expanded the number of licenses we needed because of the number of staff who were using the product, we exceeded the $10,000 threshold. And at that time, we evaluated the continued procurement with Zoom under our procurement policy and concluded that it met the criteria for sole source procurement, which is the term we use for waiving competitive procurement process. You have in the materials that were previously distributed to you, the sole source justification, and it refers to if we switched to another product, if another product was available, we would have a need to, in very short order, reschedule thousands of meetings that we had set up, some of which involve members and group meetings with members. And so to reschedule those would have taken significant staff time, taking staff away from administering benefits, and also would raise the risk of members missing meetings because of confusion, receiving an invite that's then canceled and replaced with another one. And so we concluded that that would be disruptive, and therefore it would be appropriate to do sole source procurement. Additional factors that aren't in the justification statement, at that point, Microsoft Teams was not an option for us. We needed to do significant work upgrading our infrastructure before we could move to the Microsoft's cloud-based suite of products, including Teams. We have since that sole source procurement was approved, transitioned to Microsoft Teams. And so that's the product we're now using. Zoom may show up on one more of our reports. Our licenses ended in January. So far, we paid them about $6,000 this fiscal year. Don't know if there'll be any more, so that may not be on the report next year. But the transition to Microsoft was accomplished without having to do mass rescheduling of meetings because it was something that was scheduled. We had an implementation plan and it had minimum disruption. Before I move on to the Hartford, any questions on the Zoom procurement?
Looks good.
So the Hartford is our group life insurance insurer. Prior to the Hartford, we had a contract with Aetna. That contract was from 2000. These pre-existing contracts that are listed in the reports are contracts that were in place when the competitive procurement requirement went into effect in July of 2013. So the Aetna contract was from 2000. That in our early reports under this law was one of the pre-existing contracts listed. Aetna's assets were purchased by the Hartford, and we received relatively short notice from the Hartford that they're taking over and that we would need to contract with them if we wanted to continue to use the same people and the same processes we had been using with the Aetna. We evaluated that at that time, and with a program of this size and complexity, it's not feasible to just on short order switch to a new carrier. And so we knew it would take a long time to develop an RFP and to select a new carrier and onboard the new carrier. And so because that was not feasible in the time available, we approved sole source procurement with the Hartford, essentially continuing the same relationship we had with the Aetna, the same terms, but under a new contract. We did endeavor after that to do an RFP. The RFP process took about a year from developing the RFP, going through the process, and then the Hartford was a selected vendor for the contract, and then onboarding the Hartford, we did a complete new onboarding because they weren't the carrier that we had initially signed up with. And that occurred during fiscal year 24. And if you look at our fiscal year 24 report, which is before you, the Hartford is listed as one of those pre-existing contracts, but there's an asterisk that tells you that we did a competitive procurement process that year. And so the total dollars amount listed for the Hartford included some under that pre-existing contract and some under the new competitively bid contract. And then they're not in our fiscal year 25 report because the report is for contracts where we didn't use competitive procurement. So fiscal year 25, that relationship was all under competitively bid contract.
Thank you, Representative Drinkwater. I believe that was your question. Do you have any follow-up there?
Thank you.
Any other questions on the Hartford?
Yes.
Yep.
Because I'm trying to absorb everything that you said, but an RFP was developed
Yes,
and it has been implemented.
yes.
And the latest carrier is still the Hartford?
Yes, we had significant interest from carriers, many bids, and we conducted the procurement process. We used a consultant, Milliman, to consult with us on that process, and the Hartford was the number one bidder.
And when you do an RFP,
Yeah.
do you actually send out the request to the different life insurance carriers, or you just publish it and hope that they all submit bids?
We do both. So it was published, and we also identified with the help of Milliman potential bidders, and we sent copies of the RFP to each one of those.
Now, having been a former selectman, it wasn't always our mandate to take the lowest bidder.
That's true with us as well. We take the highest value bid. And so price is always a consideration. It's typically 25% of the criteria. And so we don't always get the lowest bidder. We want to make sure we're receiving the best value.
And do we know how much, if it's in here for 2025, I haven't looked this over yet. Do you know how much the amount is for 2025? I've got 2024 here at 1.493.
I don't have the figure in front of me because this report deals with those who are not competitively bid. It's on that order. You know, it varies because it depends in part on how many claims we had that year. And so, but it's of similar magnitude as reported on the 2024 report.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any additional questions on that item? I think we're good.
The next set of questions concern the pre-existing contracts that we list on the report. Those are generally contracts that were in place again before the law went into effect in July of 2013. And they're typically contracts that don't have a fixed end date. They continue until canceled by one of the parties. And we have been pursuing competitive, whittling down the list, pursuing competitive procurement on each of those contracts to eventually get rid of all of them. And if you look at the 2025 report, for those of you who have it in front of us, there's 5 listed as pre-existing, and 3 of them have asterisks, and those asterisks say that there's been a competitive procurement of those contracts. And so now those are no longer pre-existing contracts. And so we're down to 2 remaining as of today. And one of those is Iron Mountain, which we use for computer data and paper storage. Big chunk of that was our computer backup tapes. We've since switched to a electronic storage of computer backups. So we no longer need Iron Mountain for that. We've discontinued that part of the service, and we are reducing the paper part of the storage. And so as you know, through January, we've spent approximately $6,000 this fiscal year on Iron Mountain. So it may just make it over the $10,000 threshold and be in one more report, but that's going away very shortly. And then the other remaining one is Chiron. Chiron is our actuary. They've been under a contract with us since 2008. That is scheduled to be RFP'd in the next year. Per our board's policy, we do an actuarial audit every 5 years. We have an RFP out right now on an actuarial audit. That audit will be performed this summer and early fall, and the results of that audit will then inform our process of our RFPing for new actuary. So Chiron will be on there for 1 more year at least, and then we will be transitioning to a competitively bid actuary. And we'll have no more pre-existing contracts to report. Any questions on that topic?
Seeing no questions on that, is there any general information you'd like to provide?
Just that, you know, the statutory scheme that was adopted in 2013 followed the Maine Turnpike Authority scandal. And it's to make sure quasi-independent agencies have policies in place that require competitive procurement and have a process if you're going to deviate from that, and a record storage requirement. Maine Pers has adopted those policies. We take them seriously and we comply with them.
Any additional questions from committee members on any portion of this review?
Sure.
Representative Drinkwater.
Thank you. Chapman and Cutler,
Yes.
that is an investment council.
Yes,
Does that ever, do you keep the same people or does that ever go out with an RFP?
we did, there's asterisks on that in the most recent report. We did an RFP for those council, both Chapman and Cutler and Morgan Lewis. And they were, competitive process, again, one where we had a lot of interest. They were the successful bidders. So now they have contracts under the, that are competitively bid, and they won't be on future reports.
Now, in my own experience, very limited, obviously, I used Edward Jones as my investment counselor. And, you know, I wasn't happy with him. So I moved because I wasn't, in my opinion, I wasn't getting enough growth during a good time in the economy. So is that what Chapman and Cutler is providing services for?
No, though Chapman and Cutler and Morgan Lewis and Bacchus are legal counsel. So they're investment
Oh,
legal
okay.
counsel. Approximately half of our investments are in private market investments. These are limited partnerships, generally speaking. Each transaction has legal documents that have to be drafted and negotiated. And these firms specialize in that, and they do that for us. We have professional investment staff and investment consultants that guide our investments. The investment consultants are hired through competitive procurement.
And those are internal employees?
The investment staff are internal employees and the investment consultants are external.
Thank you.
All right, seeing no other questions. Thank you for
Thank you.
being here today. Mr. Langler, would you like to walk us through next steps here?
Yeah, so I sort of jumped the gun, but if you look at the email question document that's on your desk and you look at the next page of the draft letter. So if the committee finds that both the Workers' Compensation Board, which you didn't have any questions about and didn't invite them back for, as well as Maine PERS, if you find after this review that there's no inconsistencies between their policies and their waivers of procurement, this is essentially what the letter looks like, and it goes to GOC, and then in 2 years, we get to do this again.
All right, are there any objections to finding them within their statutory authority and policies here? All right, any more you need from us in terms of a vote, or is that?
I think it's okay. I don't think you necessarily need to have a formal vote.
All right.
And then there's GEA, if you want to move on to that,
All right,
wrap that up.
now move to the Government Evaluation Act. This is the Maine Labor Relations Board and the Workers' Compensation Board.
So I think you actually did take a vote a few weeks ago on finding the Workers' Compensation Board operating within its statutory authority. If you recall, we had presentations from both Neil Daly as well as John Rhodey, and sort of Neil's was more extensive in that you decided to report out that committee vote. So the first letter is if you think the language is fine, it just says that you've reviewed the Workers' Compensation Board, the Maine Labor Relations Board, and that you find that it's operating within its statutory review. And the paragraph with the asterisk is just explaining that you decided to take further action and report out the bill that you just voted on. So if that looks good, that can be signed by the chairs, and then that'll be transmitted and it'll be on the House and Senate calendars.
Any objections or changes to that language? Okay, looks good.
And then the second page is the Workers' Compensation Board. And that one, obviously you didn't take any further action, but you didn't have any further questions either. So this letter would just simply say that you've reviewed the report and you find that they're operating within their statutory authority. So if the committee agrees with that and wants to proceed with that, with this letter, it would be the same. It would go on the House and Senate calendars.
And I think we had a pretty good review there as well. Any objections or changes to the language used there around statutory authority? Okay, looks good.
And that would conclude both the GEA and the quasi-independent entity reviews. So,
Any other committee business today?
I don't have any.
Okay, nothing from our members. We are good and we are adjourned at